estou aqui com o Lucas Neckermann, um dos maiores especialistas do mundo em mobilidade e em mobilidade corporativa. E a ideia é a gente fazer mais algumas perguntas para ele aqui. Ele vai estar na plenária amanhã, a gente vai transmitir isso para vocês também, às 4h45, se não me engano. Eu vou começar um pouco perguntando sobre como que ele veio parar nesse status de ser um cara que é um expert em mobilidade. Porque essa é uma profissão relativamente nova. So, thank you for being here, for having the time. Lucas chegou hoje, you arrived this afternoon, so...
It's a pleasure to be here.
One thing I should mention before, 3 books you have. O Lucas tem 3 livros já. Um está focado na revolução da mobilidade, o outro fala de mobilidade corporativa especificamente, e o mais recente agora está falando de cidades inteligentes, de mobilidade no contexto urbano. You've been dealing with like the micro levels of mobility, and also in this last book you've gone like in the macro level, like wider. How did you get at this point of becoming like a mobility expert? What was your career before?
Well, I think I have to go back a little bit further.
Yes,
I
please.
started my career at BMW over 20 years ago. And if you can imagine a time, this was when BMW had just brought out its first inkling of a website. And I was, in fact, in charge of then, or responsible with a few others for setting up BMW.com. And this was 96, 97, 98. And we would challenge and push the people in the organization and say, so, when are we going to start selling cars online? And if you can imagine an organization like any OEM saying, well, I think you're nuts. We have a dealer network, we have this and we have that. Let's just leave it with a website and, we'll take it from there.
Let me just translate that part. Ele começou na BMW há uns 20 anos e foi um dos responsáveis por iniciativas como, por exemplo, fundar o site. A internet ainda estava começando. E aí começaram a surgir perguntas do tipo, poxa, a gente vai vender carros online. It's not so far away from what we, like 20 years?
No, but the point is that this was, whatever it was, almost 20 years ago. But I was always kind of the guy that was thinking about other stuff. So together with a friend of mine, we started a project. This was not at the OEM anymore, but this was just something we did in our spare time called the Oscar Project. So it was the open source car project, where we thought we could develop a car online using open source principles. And again, in 98, 99, this was outlandish. Now you're beginning to see this happening. You have OS Vehicle and other projects where open source principles are being applied. So we're always kind of the ones pushing things. And to me, the auto industry, as much as I love it, and I'm a car guy, there were parts of it that were really boring.
No tempo livre dele, ele e um amigo começaram um projeto fora da BMW, fora da montadora, que era uma ideia de construir um carro online, open source. E did that project take off?
I think there were something like 60 or 70 engineers that had developed the framework of a car, but it always stumbled with, well, now what? We can't build it, we can't print it, there's no 3D printing, there's no this, that, and we had no engineers.
60 or 70 engineers?
It was all, people collaboratively working on this, and my friend pushed it a lot harder for a little while, but then it failed, as so many ideas do, and fair to say it was probably 10, 15 years ahead of its time.
Ele falou que chegaram a ter 60, 70 engenheiros aí trabalhando nessa ideia. Eles conseguiram elaborar um framework para um carro, mas e aí chegaram num ponto que aí, o que a gente faz agora? A gente não produz, a gente não tinha impressora 3D na época, e ele falou que ele é um entusiasta do carro, mas que tem alguns aspectos da indústria automotiva que são meio chatos, são meio diferentes. And after that,
I left the car industry, and again, this was a time when the excitement in the car industry was a new model coming out that was 3% better than the old one. It went from 0 to 100 kilometers in 0.1 second faster, and everybody celebrated that. And that, to me, wasn't real innovation.
E aí chegou um ponto que a indústria estava evoluindo de uma forma que assim, poxa, o lançamento desse ano que todo mundo gostou é porque o carro agora é 0,1 segundos mais rápido que o anterior, mas isso para ele não era inovação na época.
So, about 5 years ago, I began to see a lot of things happening that were true innovation, were real, genuine breakthroughs in the way we move around. I mean, obviously things like Zipcar, came about, and the whole sharing economy came about. I had spoken to a few engineers at Carnegie Mellon and other universities that were in robotics and that had been involved with the DARPA project, where I said, wow, this is really now possible to actually have autonomous vehicles. And then, of course, electrification. That was right around the time when Tesla had released the Roadster. Certainly, the whole lithium-ion battery changed what the EV1 was before at GM. And it created a new opportunity for true innovation in the auto industry.
E aí, há uns 5 anos atrás, ele começou a perceber que tinha algumas coisas diferentes acontecendo, que algumas tecnologias começavam a tornar possível algumas inovações realmente disruptivas, alguns breakthroughs. E aí começou a conversar com gente de robótica e viu que tinha já tecnologia para desenvolver o carro autônomo, a gente já tinha impressoras, a economia do compartilhamento também estava começando, mais ou menos nessa época também a Tesla começou a lançar os seus primeiros projetos do Roadster. And so that all is like a big mix that led us to this new...
What occurred to me, because I would attend conferences for electric vehicles, I would attend conferences for robotics, and I would attend conferences for the sharing economy, was that nobody was actually at that point yet talking about the big picture, the fact that all of these things were coming together. And it was one of these aha moments where I said, they're not talking about separate, disparate things. This is one thing, and this is a genuine mobility revolution in the same scale as the internet, the same scale and significance, maybe even greater than the smartphone itself. So at that point I said, I need to devote my energy, my time, my life to this topic.
E aí ele falou que foi a 10 conferências de tecnologia, 10 conferências de veículos elétricos, 10 conferências de economia compartilhada. E aí ele percebeu que eles não estavam conectando os pontos ali. Estava cada um falando de uma coisa, mas que parecia o começo de uma revolução de mobilidade que estava chegando e que talvez fosse algo como a internet e possivelmente maior do que o que a gente viu com os smartphones, por exemplo. E aí decidiu escolher isso como um assunto para tocar adiante, para dedicar a vida. Based on what we saw that we had on the internet from 96 to 2016, do you think that in 20 years we're going to have that type of scenario transformation?
I don't think we have to wait that long. We're already seeing these things happen now. I mean, we have autonomously driving taxis being piloted and already today. So you're already seeing these things coming together. And this is over the span of really, of course there was a lot of things that led up to it, but really the intensity of change over the last 2 to 3 years is enormous, and it's only going to get faster.
Eu perguntei para ele, eu falei, você acha que então daqui a 20 anos, como a gente já tem uns 20 anos de internet aí popular no mundo e no Brasil, se a gente daqui a 20 anos vai ter uma revolução parecida, a gente vai mudar o cenário tanto quanto a internet acabou mudando. E ele falou, acho que a gente nem precisa esperar tanto assim, a gente já está vendo aí carros autônomos, táxis autônomos rodando e já tem exemplos de coisas concretas acontecendo que já são tão revolucionárias quanto essas que a gente viu a internet. When we first released the vehicles, in England there was a law that said there should be, it wouldn't be able to go over 3 kilometers per hour, like 2 miles per hour, and somebody would need to go ahead of it with a red flag, waving it, because... So my last question for you is, are we being too cautious on the autonomous vehicles, or do you think it's something we should go softly on?
Well, I think we hold autonomous vehicles and human drivers to different standards. So human drivers, for whatever sad, tragic reason, we accept that every single year 1.3 million people lose their lives, 90% of those caused by human error. Somehow we accept that. We call them accidents. We call them, oh gosh, well, couldn't have helped that, and we pretend like well, life can go on and there was no way to prevent that. But in fact, we can prevent it. The standard that we're holding autonomous vehicles to is much, much higher. We know very well that the first time, the second time, the third time that an autonomous vehicle is not able to overcome physics, maybe doesn't have the Sixth Sigma of algorithm and isn't able to make the right decision, and then sadly someone loses their lives, that will throw us back by a certain period of time. It will raise a discussion. It will raise new regulations and things like that. So yes, this is the bar that we set for humans, and this is the bar that we set for autonomous. And maybe that's right, but we have to recognize that there are two different sets of standards.
Eu perguntei para ele se a gente não está sendo muito... se a gente não está pegando muito pesado com o veículo autônomo, porque quando a gente lançou o carro, há 100 anos atrás, tinha uma lei na Inglaterra que falava que o carro não podia passar de 3 km por hora, que precisava ter alguém na frente do carro balançando uma bandeira vermelha para que ele pudesse circular nas ruas. E ele falou, bom, por alguma razão a gente entende que são acidentes, as 1,3 milhões de pessoas que morrem todo ano nas estradas do mundo, e a gente leva os carros autônomos a um padrão, a gente sobe muito a barra, talvez isso esteja certo na opinião dele, mas que são padrões diferentes que a gente tem adotado. Para os humanos a gente aceita um comportamento e provavelmente a cada erro que a gente tiver nesses projetos todos de veículos autônomos, a gente vai voltar um pouco e rediscutir algumas coisas, mas que com certeza são aí padrões diferentes.